Let me come back to something you just said. You got to understand losing to appreciate winning. I love the thought. Is that harder in today's youth sports world where maybe a lot of the kids that you're getting haven't done a lot of losing?
Well, I think it just goes back to parenting, right? You know, I never let my two boys, they're 9 and 7, win at anything when we compete. I'm tough on them. And there's a lot of tears that are involved in that. And my wife's like, you can let them win. I said, they need to understand losing. And sometimes that comes off tough. But we're in a microwave society. Everyone wants instant success. They want the prize without the process. They're told how great they are from a young age. And that's not how life works. And it's definitely not how the game of football works. So to see these guys go through something hard, and you can either, fight what's happening to you or fight each other. And we're fighting what happened to us. And we learn from that. So to be able to come back 3 times in the fourth quarter and win games, there's no flinch in our team. And that comes from a real belief in each other. And I think that's the important part of learning how that goes, and it has to be trained. You're right. But at the end of the day, these kids want to do it. And I think if you show them, you're honest with them, they crave discipline and accountability, right? They don't always love it, but at the end of the day, in the big picture, they understand why they need it. And we surrounded ourselves with the right kids, not just the most talented ones.
Do you have we're talking to Coach Jake Dickert from Washington State. Do you have a method for when you're recruiting, trying to figure out which kids have that and which kids don't?
Yeah, it's called recruiting the Pullman, Washington. Sometimes they just show up and it's not for them. And people have looked at that as a downside sometimes. I say, no, this is who we are, guys. We sit in my office, we look out the windows, I got the best view in town. And it's like, you got to embrace this. You got to understand what it is, right? It is agriculture. It is wheat. It is toughness. It is creating a connection because we have each other and not a bunch of fancy things to do. That is who we are. And I think that is a separator because you got to love football here. Like, you got to love it. And you got to be part of what you want to do, and it's got to be really important to you. So, and I think you don't come here for the shine and the light. You come here for the team. So I think it is, and I never take that in a bad way because I love this place. But at the end of the day, it does separate people who really want to be here. And when Washington State has created success, we've had tons of people from coaches to players to administrators that love Pullman, Washington, and I think that's what you see out of this team.
I want to get to that winning and losing thing because I had a thought on that as well. But you're not flying guys in at 9:30 at night anymore. I used to hear that rumor, right? Are there still a couple of guys you fly in really late when it's dark and, they can pull up to campus and everything else or the hotel? Now you got nice hotels in Pullman too, by the way. Some really good ones. You're not doing that anymore?
No, there's stories of Coach Price. RVing them down with the shades closed so they couldn't see anything from Spokane to Pullman. We embraced it all, guys. I mean that because you got to understand what that journey is about.
Yep. When you talk about winning and losing, that's just not on the 100-yard field as well. I'm going to guess some of the losing. I'm still not over it, right? It's still frustrating to me. I still get really angry and emotional about a conference that I played in, and I know it's going to be coming back and it's going to look a little bit different. But have you come to grips with that side of all that happened over the last couple years, and how much of that losing some of the fabric of, Washington, Oregon, SC, and UCLA also comes into play of helping you win as well?
It's a great question, Brock. I would say last year, the biggest thing I learned is I tried to take on everything because when the Pac-12 did fall apart, when people don't talk about it, it really affects our community. Really affects our university, and it's a big deal. And I tried to know that my voice was the biggest voice that was heard throughout everywhere. But I tried to take everything on. And all that does is, create maybe a little bit of a lack of focus, and it wears you out. And, now I'm just taking all the energy and putting it toward where do we need to go, and just worried about what Washington State needs to do to create success in the future. Because you could look at it as what if and what happened, but belief is even if, right? So even if the Pac-12 fall apart, we put something new together where we have an opportunity now to win championships. And I look at it that way. But we also have to make a decision to invest the right way to stay at the top and to stay ahead because we let 5 teams in that used to be in the Mountain West that are now going to be equal competitors. So those are the things that I've learned in the last couple of years. But I love representing every fiber of Washington State, from the grocery store owner down the street to the hotels to the restaurants to our amazing faculty and staff and students. So just focus on us as Cougs and where we need to be and where we need to go.
What was that moment like when it all happened? You had to gather your team together or communicate with them in some way. What was that first meeting with the team like after things had kind of fallen apart with the conference?
Well, it caught me as I was coming off the field, so I don't know. That first press conference there was very good. It was a little emotional and that type of stuff, but we just said, guys, we can't control it, and let's focus on what we need to do. And it's kind of like, Major League a little bit. Have you ever seen that movie where the owner comes in and tries to do everything they can to tank the season, and you just go like, let's make it happen. And, so our guys, I thought, stayed very focused, and we just tried to do what we can with that moment and just keep attacking every moment from there on out.
I think I know your answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. And I think in some ways you sort of answered it earlier in talking about sort of what's made this team work and how you recruit the winning and losing. But why didn't John Mateer leave after not starting for 2 years? That seems to be sort of the thing to do in college football. If you're not getting your way and you're not getting your playing time, you just bail and find another spot where you will. As I said, I think I know what your answer is going to be, but why is he still here? Why did he stick with it?
John's not your average person, first off. I mean, he's a ultimate competitor, chip on your shoulder. He was learning from what will be the Heisman Trophy winner this year. So I think there was just a lot of things, and he bought into a system and a process and loved the people here. And I think that's important. And hopefully John Mateer's story really gets out there, because if you want to be successful, especially at the hardest position in all of sports, consistency is very important. Being a good thrower and a good athlete is one thing. Being able to take that ball when 11 guys want to tear your head off and go through the right process and make the correct play is playing great quarterback. So John had to learn that, and he's still learning that. He's 8 games into a career that's going to be just phenomenal because he's an ultimate competitor. He is a refuse-to-lose guy. He's never satisfied. He's very humble. He works his tail off, and I believe he's going to reward us for the belief that we had in him. He was committed to the FCS guys in January when we offered him a scholarship. And I think he's very loyal to that, and he believes in our people and process and the plan that we have in place for him.
If Jake Dickert were a quarterback, he'd be John Mateer, would he not?
Unfortunately, Brock, I was, and I would not be in the same breath as John Mateer. They had to move me in college because I wasn't very good at wide receiver. So, but yeah, I think I connect a lot with John because I think our mindsets are the same. I think we are. And I think one thing I really make sure through my journey I share with John is that you can't grind yourself to a pulp. You got to step back and say, man, I did do great things. You can't just focus on the negative and constantly just overwork and outwork everything every time. And I just kind of share that with him because I do see myself in John's mentality. And I've learned through my journey, and what's going to make him great is that. But when it goes too far, I think we all know you fall off that cliff and you just grind yourself down. So he got there in that bucket we talk about, of being negative on himself a little bit throughout the season, and he's pulled it out, and he's just ready to keep attacking.
You said that you hope his story gets out and more people learn it. What parts? What is the story of John Mateer that folks should know?
Well, I think the biggest part is, the 2-star guy, the unrecruited, that the work you do matters. Stay in the course. Don't worry about rivals, rankings, and stars, and, didn't grow up always with the easiest life and didn't compare himself to anybody, just loved being John Mateer. And the first guy, when we got here, he earned the backup role, and I was leaving at 10 p.m. During fall camp, and the lights are off in the stadium, and John's down there running through plays on the script of tomorrow morning's practice. Like, that's John Mateer. And if you stay true to that and you don't let the shine and the worry of your environment around you and your trainers and your parents and your aunts and uncles tell you should be playing and transferring, you can create a lot of success for yourself. So I'm just really proud of the kid, the mentality, how he was raised, and just it embodies Washington State in general. And I think that's what I love about John and his story, and he's been really humble throughout all his success.
Head man of the Cougs, Jake Dickert here with us, kind enough to take some time on a bye week and then a 4-week stretch of Utah State at New Mexico, at Oregon State, Wyoming. I'm staring you guys down the home stretch here. How big of a deal, looking a little bit back during a bye week, you can do that. How big of a deal and how big of a springboard was the Apple Cup win?
Obviously, I mean, you know, just the passion, the rivalry with it was huge. And to have it in week 3 was obviously very unique. But I think it just showed what we're capable of doing. And it verified, being in year 3 of our program, that our process works. And I think from a big approach and a big picture look at it, that's what, you know, I took away from it. And I just sit back and said, man, these kids are gritty. We got the right kids here. We've done just tremendous things, and the connection of this team is special. And, you know, go into that environment, however you want to put it, on the road, and to find a way to win, I think it just springboarded us to a whole different level of belief. And I think that's what you do in those type of big moments.
You've had Brock in your production meetings, right, for his games. Like, he's done some Coug games over the last few years.
Dude, I did his win at Wisconsin.
I know,
yes.
And I often hear from you about how good you are in those production meetings. I'm kind of curious to hear from the other side. Is Brock as good at asking questions in those production meetings as he says he is?
Absolutely. I mean, you pinned me down on that one, but I would say this. I know where his allegiance lies, and he's extremely professional and makes sure that he's splitting down the middle. I talked to him before the last Apple Cup of the Pac-12, when that was a hell of a battle in Seattle last year. And deep down, Brock, I knew you were cheering for us. It's okay.
I think he does, and I'll tell you what. I'm not from here originally. I've been here 15 years, so I didn't grow up with the Washington State rivalry or whatever. But even just last night, I was at one of my kids' practices, and I found out that you were going to be on. I said, "Oh, that's great. I said to the guy next to me, we're going to have Jake Dickert on tomorrow." And this guy went to UW, and he's like, "I got to tell you, I'm kind of rooting for the Cougs. Like, I'm kind of hoping." And he's like, it's not out of like a little brother thing. He's like, they just got so royally screwed, and I'm rooting for them to overcome the whole thing and just show this system how broken it is and go to a 12-team playoff. So, yes, Brock, he roots for you in this very insulting kind of way. I understand that.
Stop.
Just kidding.
Stop.
No, Brock's as good as it gets.
I don't know.
But I don't think that sentiment is alone. I think there are a lot of people who have the very same thought.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Brock's the ultimate professional, but also I just think in Seattle we're winning them over one at a time. When I took over, that was one of the biggest things I don't think Mike Leach really cared about the local community and support and recruiting kids and athletes over there. And I think when you do that, you win with a bunch of West Side kids. I think they see, man, these guys are doing it the right way, and they're doing it with great energy and passion, and that's fun to get behind.
I got two last quick questions here for you. One of them is kind of a big picture football discussion we're having about the Seahawks here in town, and just some of the struggles that Coach McDonald in year 1 of building a culture and doing it his way. Just philosophically, Jake, when you go into a game, how much of your plan is about accentuating your strengths versus how much of a plan is really eliminating some of the weaknesses or areas of vulnerability?
Well, if you ever read the book Power of Full Engagement, I think it's one thing that's super important. Too many people focus on weakness and not enough about really leaning into your strengths. And I think that's the one thing, as our staff, we've done a great job. What is John's strengths, right? Because we're trying to operate the offense like it's Cam Ward, and that doesn't work. So we got to lean into what our guys do well, because then, Brock, they're not going to hesitate. My number one job as a head coach is to make sure I eliminate fear so our guys can play fast without hesitation. And if you do that, great things can happen, because football is such an imperfect game. I know we get coached and criticized, and we got to learn a bunch of things, but you got to play fast. And when we do that, it's all about our strengths and worrying to attack them instead of just reacting. If you're a reactionary football team, bad things are going to happen because there's too many good players on that field. So that's the approach we like to take into it. And if you don't lean into the strengths of your football team, schematically you got to take advantage of some things and you got to be able to adjust. But at the end of the day, let's lean into what we do really well, and I think that makes us a good football team.
Okay, and then the last one. I've heard it from Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. the fourth down call that left me talking like Tony Romo on the broadcast of that final Apple Cup there in Seattle, last year, not this year, last year, when they go for it on fourth down and they end up running the play, they run. What was going through your headsets, your plan? If you could go back to that play, the Romadunze little end around deal off of the zone action, what was going through Jake Dickert's head?
Well, if I go back to it, I'd throw the flag on all the holding, but I would say heck of a call. I would say heck of a call. I mean, that's you win championships on big decisions, and I take a lot of pride as a head coach on trying to create edges for our football team. He did it in that moment, and the hard part is we didn't stick to our script either as coaches, and I think that's important. I mean, we studied their 4th and 1. They're going to do a bunch of different things on 4th and 1. They went in a big body personnel, which our main coverage is man. So good by them, well schemed, and those are the moments that you win because I try to tell – I can take the criticism because that's what it is, but we play to win, right? And I was playing to win, and we do that too, whether that's going for 2, whether that's punt fakes, whether that's play to win. Don't be afraid of losing. I think there's just a different mentality, and your kids get behind that. And Kalen did that in that moment, and those kids executed better than we did. So I think that's what it was, and great learning moment. But from my standpoint, in my chair, always take a positive approach to trying to win games.
And next time, hopefully, they throw the flag for holding and everything works out the way it's supposed to. Coach, we appreciate it. Thank you. My apologies for waiting so long to have you on the show. This was a ton of fun, really informative and educational. I'd love to try to do it again at some point. And I'll leave you with this from Major League.
Every time we win, we peel a section.
Oh, the music really makes it when it kicks in there. That's 1988 right there.
One note, Saul. All right, my dad was in that movie. Okay, it was filmed in Milwaukee, and when Serrano hits the home run at the end of the game, he's the first one in the Cleveland Indians to jump on him when he crosses home plate.
Really?
That's a great fact right there.
That's
a great
unbelievable.
Fact. Yep.
Does his jersey say Dickert on it?
No, he has some random name, but it was. He was a teacher at the time. He did it in his break during the summer. Incredible.
That is unbelievable. Thank you. Wow, this is more informative than I even imagined it would be today. Coach, thank you so much. It's a lot of fun. Continue. Good luck. Hopefully, we'll talk again.
Appreciate it, guys. Go Cougs.
All right, there you go. There's head coach Jake Dickert. How about that for a little story at the end?
Wow. Can I give you a tiny little tidbit, too?
You can say whatever you want, but I think I'm in love. That guy was unbelievable.
You'd run through a wall for that guy.
I would absolutely.
Yes,
that was like if I were a parent, Brock, and that came to my house to recruit my kid would be on the plane immediately, or the bus or the car.